We're going to call to order the special board meeting and possible executive session for the Cochise County Board of Supervisors. We're meeting in the Supervisors Executive Conference Room. Pursuant to ARS 38-431.02H, the public will have access to the meeting 15 minutes prior to the start of the meeting. Any item on this agenda is open for discussion and possible action. Members of the Board of Supervisors will attend either in person or by telephone. Members of the public may also attend via Microsoft Teams and by telephone. Pursuant to ARS 38-431.03B, minutes and discussions in executive session shall be kept confidential. We'll begin with a roll call vote. District 1, District 2. Gomez is here. District 3, Antonori is here. All three supervisors are present, with Ms. Gomez attending via Microsoft Teams. And so we need to go to executive session right now, I guess.
Well, we could, or we could, what I was thinking is I could tell you what I think of the county administrator's job position, which is here, resolution 015, and then we could maybe go ladies first and dismiss Joe while we talk to Sharon and see what she has to say about whatever she wants to talk about. What do you think of that?
Okay, I guess we could.
Is that agreeable?
Yes, I'm not sure where this discussion is going to go.
Yeah, I thought we were,
Okay.
this was regarding job titles, job descriptions for the current administrator.
Okay, then let's just expel Joe and we'll come back to talking about the whole thing when you come back. How's that sound? Does that sound okay?
Fine to me.
All right.
Are we talking about individuals or are we talking about job description?
That's what I thought. I thought we were talking
Yeah,
about
that was
job
job
description.
Job description. And so I think is Joe leaving?
He doesn't have to.
I don't think it's necessary.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't think he needs to leave either.
Okay, well, I think I have pointed out that the job titles are both dependent on the position existing of a county administrator, in my opinion. Does anybody disagree with that?
That the job title
Since it says,
been on an existing.
well, it says interim county administrator and interim deputy county administrator, which to me imply the existence of a county administrator.
Correct.
Okay, we don't have one.
Well, we have an interim.
Oh, no, I get what you're saying. The position is vacant because Mr. Karwachka vacated it. Or are you stating the position itself does not exist?
Actually, both, but it obviously doesn't exist as per the ARSs.
Well, it's not in the statute, but there's a lot of positions at the county that aren't in the statute.
Okay.
That's what I'm getting at. So again, I look at it as, again, I like the term chief of staff. You know, the Constitution doesn't have the chief of staff in there, but there's a chief of staff of the White House, there's a chief of staff of the Army. None of that's in the Constitution. But it's a position that's created to manage what would be, for lack of a better term, the bureaucracy of the relative government agency, right? So you usually have a key person that has been delegated the authority by the elected body or the elected individual to manage that large portion of staff on a day-to-day basis to free up said elected official or officials to go do other business. That's the point. So to avoid having to be bogged down in the office all day rather than going to get yelled at in sun sites by wonderful constituents or meet with other folks or go to things in Sierra Vista or meet with the governor or the things that we've been doing, we would end up being here most of the time managing a lot of day-to-day stuff that I think delegating to an administrator is the title depicts to handle. That's the argument there.
Okay.
So I'm not disagreeing
Everybody's familiar
with
with
you.
what I call the bubble chart. Everybody's
Yeah.
seen the bubble chart. Do we all agree that this bubble chart is inapplicable?
Well,
Doesn't
yes,
apply?
I do think we have to redo the bubble chart
Yeah.
because I didn't think it made sense before. But I also think that we need someone that has to handle the day-to-day. I feel, and I've stated this before, that being elected, we are the Board of Supervisors. We have authority over most things because the administrator can't go to jail, but I sure can for my decisions. And so I want to make sure that there's a flow of information that the
too.
board, right? So the board of supervisors is the boss. But I mean, whether we call it a chief of staff or chief administrator, I think we just need to look at the description of the job, because there's a lot of things in what Mr. Crosby sent me that I was kind of surprised by and don't agree with. So I thought we were going to go through descriptions of the
Okay.
job.
I don't think that that can be done without going through the county administrator position also.
Well, we can start with that, right?
Okay, let's take a look. And so everybody has this job description for the county administrator, and I'm just going to fast forward to paragraph 8 and make my comment that we all agree that the organizational chart, so-called bubble chart, is messed up. That means the majority, what it says here is if we have a county administrator, the majority of the board of supervisors could potentially have to fire the administrator to force him or her to do what he or she is otherwise unwilling to do. Does everybody understand that?
Yeah, but what paragraph are you on? Are you on the beginning? You said 8?
Two.
Or 2. Okay.
Yeah, paragraph 8.
Does anybody want to talk about that, or
Well,
is
I'd like to,
that
I'd
given?
like to, I'd like to talk about 1, because I didn't know there was a county administrator's form of organization. So what does that mean?
Doesn't mean anything because it's not in the ARSs. So
Okay.
basically, you've got a difference between city government, which does have a position called city manager. And in my opinion, the forces of darkness want to force counties into that so-called form of government. I think it's unconstitutional. I think it violates Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution, where you are abdicating the executive role and handing it off to an unelected person.
So when
And there
that
might
first
be a
year,
whole bunch of other,
No, but I mean, how do you reconcile the fact, so the governor has a chief of staff? That's not in the Constitution. The Senate has a chief of staff. The House has a chief of staff. And they delegate authority to that chief of staff to execute the day-to-day operations of the House, the day-to-day operations of the Senate, and of course, the day-to-day operations of the governor's office.
okay. Well,
I mean, that's
fine, Frank.
I mean, I know it's not in the Constitution or in the statute, but I'm just saying there's a million jobs that aren't.
Well, that's like saying the Marines. Now, the Marines are in the Constitution. But anyway, regardless, I'm not going to change my mind, and you can listen to what I have to say. That's okay. So that's how I feel about it. It is a violation. It is an abdication of executive responsibility by the Board of Supervisors. You thought it was not. I'm going to give a whole bunch of reasons and examples of why it is. It is an abdication.
Well, abdication or delegation. That's the difference.
Okay.
Yeah.
Basically, let's see. In my opinion, the provisions of paragraph 8 provide too much insulation to staff who you might direct to go against the majority of the Board of Supervisors. Could that happen? You better believe it can. It did happen. Okay? It did happen. All right? Second to last sentence in paragraph 8, and let's just take a look at what it says here. The county administrator shall comply with applicable merit system rules and other applicable laws, regulations, and board policies in performing these responsibilities. So this all depends on having a county administrator that you can trust to do what they're supposed to do without stonewalling and without slow walking whatever it is that you wish that he was doing. Okay? And I'm just talking about from my experience.
No, I got you. I got you.
Let's take a look at paragraph number 10.
Okay, well,
all of it. Go ahead.
okay, what page? Excuse me. I want to
Page
follow
2.
you.
Just follow the
Page
numbers.
Now I'm on paragraph
Well, the
10.
numbers. Okay, I got 8 right here. Now you're on what? You're on 10?
Number 10? Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Primary point of contact between these employees and officials of the Board of Supervisors. All such employees and officials are directed to bring issues of budget, major expenditures, county policy, other matters that may require collective decision of the Board of Supervisors through the county administrator, who will schedule the matter for consideration by the board as may be appropriate. Unless he decides that's not appropriate. He or she decides that's not appropriate. I'm just going to stonewall that. The Board of Supervisors doesn't need to hear about that doesn't need to know about that, okay? So it all depends on the honesty and integrity of who is in that position. My preference is do not have one. I don't think it's necessary.
Okay, well, hang on. So let's discuss that point. So how would you see us breaking out? Are you talking about like breaking the staff out or having all the staff to
Well,
report to each of us or have 3 to me, 3 to you, 3 to Kathleen?
oh, there could be a number of ways to do that. And the more it resembles a Republican form of government where you have elected representation, the better. I'm not talking about Republican Party.
Right.
Elected representation,
Right.
which obviously the county administrator position is not. Like,
Well,
you agree with
then
that?
you're
It's not elected.
then I would have to say, if you want to do that, then heck, I need my own I need my own aide. There's no way I'm going to be able to do what I want to do, which is policy making, and then do day-to-day stuff. I mean, I think it's too big to be able to run like that. That's my feeling.
Okay. Well, I would point out that within this, here's a paragraph 10, we got the word routine. Other places might say day to day. You can't just throw these words out there like routine and day to day. You got to define what do you have authority to do, what decisions do you have to make, and what do you not have the authority and decisions to make. That's got to be extremely specific, or you're going to have somebody take an authority that the Board of Supervisors doesn't want them to have if they knew they were taking it. Okay. Second to last sentence. I guess I'm up to.
This is the document that, Laura, you sent me that had 19 pages. Is that correct? That everyone's using?
It looks like
Okay.
it. Yeah, it says bottom last couple lines of paragraph 10, county administrators shall be authorized to make routine decisions or decisions that implement prior adopted policy or work programs. In whose opinion? In their own opinion. If you're not watching over their shoulder, it's going to be in their own opinion whether they are implementing prior adopted policy or work programs. Number 11, we got nothing stated. Herein shall prevent any county employee or official from discussing any matters of county business or county policy with an individual member of the Board of Supervisors at the request of that board member. That doesn't make any sense at all. Because
Well, I'll give you an example. Like I walk into Stacy's office and I say, hey, can you give me a printout for the jail district budget or something, right? That's what that means. So this doesn't prohibit Stacy from giving me that information without having to run to.
I would say I don't have a problem with it, but it's a matter of opinion.
No, I get what you're saying, but again, I haven't seen any issue with asking for stuff, and generally that's how I stay out of trouble because I just ask for stuff. If I tell her to do something, then I got to be careful because then am I implementing policy without a 2 to 1 vote or more?
Yes, of course you were.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So that's why, how do I manage the finance director, let's say? Is that her title?
Stacy's the budget manager.
Or budget manager. Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't.
The board should make as many board decisions as possible.
I
in my
agree with
opinion.
that. And I talked to both Sharon and Joe about having a different direct report system with the direct department heads, but getting rid of someone in charge to manage them on a day-to-day basis is what I think Kathleen and I are getting at here. If you want to tighten up the language on roles, responsibilities, I'm with you on that. I'm defining clearly those roles and responsibility, what decisions are allowed to be made in the absence of a decision from the board. That's fine by me. I mean, that's fine. And then reorging the chart, I'm also, and I've said it before, I'm also in favor of redoing that org chart. And again, every elected official in this county is able to have hiring, firing authority over every employee that directly reports to them, with the exception of us, except for these two guys. They're the only two that we have direct hire and fire. And Laura, I think we got, right? Is Laura?
Laura's
Laura's
appointed by the board.
Appointed by the board. That's it. But I agree that I think each of the department heads should report directly to the board. That's always been my contention. just like the cabinet reports to the president of the United States, or the department heads report to the governor of the state of Arizona.
Okay, so I got up to
Yeah.
paragraph 14, and it would be nice, I think, to get concurrence from my colleagues that this whole thing needs to be tossed.
Amended, not necessarily tossed. I
Okay.
agree with you. It does definitely need,
Greatly amended.
it greatly amended. I think it needs to be updated, and I'm not doubting in one bit. I think we do need to more clearly define, the aspects of what routine decisions are, maybe define that out a little bit better.
Laura, is your 9-sentence description in here? Okay, well, if it isn't, well, that's one thing.
May
we
I
gotta
say
find out.
something?
Sure,
I
sure.
just want to say something. I absolutely agree that in the past, the county administrator, whether it was Mike Ortega or Kowalska, held all the power. And I think that's absolutely wrong. They weren't elected by the people. So the board of supervisors has to be it has to be written. They are the leaders. They're elected. They're the boss. So I agree with you that this has to be changed so that the board of supervisors is always meant not to be a rubber stamp or not to be one that is given certain information and have to make it a decision that's made on whatever information that county administrator deems relevant for them to hear. I'm totally against that. But I think we need to amend this so that we can build in the future a legacy of having a strong board of supervisors. That is where all the decisions come to, because that's what we're elected to do.
Okay. Bottom of paragraph 10, said persons who are not satisfied with the determinant of the county administrator may request action by the entire board of supervisors to resolve the issue through the clerk of the board. Now, this is completely goofy because now we're putting the clerk of the board in the mix, and I don't have any problem with that, basically, but you're starting out with the county administrator who does not exist as per the ARSs, yet the county clerk does exist as per the ARSs. And so there's other language in here that says that the county administrator is over everybody and gives a big long list of people that we would agree that are under such a county administrator, basically everybody in building G or something like that. But then says something like, and other employees that the Board of Supervisors may designate are also the county, under the county administrator, and that would include the county clerk, at least it used to. And that, in my view, is completely irrational, wrong, no good, et cetera, to take a statutorily recognized position like the clerk and put it under the statutorily non-existent county administrator. No good. And then the reason why I asked her, I don't happen to have she has nine sentences that say what her duties are. And most of the time, they're all that kind of language is so broad, you can fit a whole bunch of stuff underneath there, but I'm not looking at them right now. But while we talk about what are we going to have instead of a county administrator, we need to thoroughly look at the county clerk's position and make sure that we're not making anything upside down and not making any redundant duties and so on and so forth.
Okay. Again, I'm not in total disagreement with you. I do want to reorg the way that the directors, is that the proper term?
Mm-hmm.
Department directors report to the board and have them accountable to the board, and have the board have the authority to conduct what would be the hiring and firing of those directors. And then the rest of the employees, I would not care if Sharon or Joe did all the interviews for everybody else, or whoever you guys have doing them all now. Paul, you got it. Go ahead.
Yeah, for this revision, we're looking at paragraph 8. This could be accomplished by selecting the county administrator to take any personnel action, right? So then you've got the nimbleness and the protection of having one designated administrator taking care of that after the board votes. So if there's
Right. Well, that's my point is, and if we make a policy decision and direct this to happen, right? We say that the health department will, I don't know what to say, we'll conduct restaurant inspections every 30 days instead of 90 days, right? Let's say that. So we vote that and that passes. And then we say, hey, get with the health department, make sure they start doing inspections every 30 days. And if they aren't doing inspections in every 30 days, then we bring, the way I see it is we bring the health department director in and we ask him or her, why aren't you doing it in 30 days? And if they don't have a good answer, then we could say, okay, I think we have passive resistance or insubordination here. I recommend we terminate the health director and go find a new one. And then we have a 3-person vote and that's it. But that should, my point is it should be our decision, the board's decision for the departments, not.
So that would be more clear.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. So,
Do you have a question?
Oh, I just have a question about, in such a scenario, my understanding is there's certain open meeting law requirements that we would have to make, so it wouldn't be on the spot kind of decision. It would have to be noticed and posted and such a thing.
I don't think that's
So that's-
prohibitive, and that's the way I think we should handle it. And we have had a lot more meetings than ever before.
well, like I gave the example like Lisa Mara, right? If I was on the board of supervisors, I would have fired. I would have had a meeting. I would have all of the supervisors, when she went around the county's back to get that, change the PC thing, changed about appointing PCs rather than electing PCs without talking to anybody. And her crew of county elections directors, all unelected, went and lobbied the legislature and found a sponsor to run that bill on their behalf. You know, that to me was a
So in that
terminating
scenario,
offense.
you could have like a work session, brought her there and her answer to the board as a group, in or out of executive session, and then made a decision.
Right, right. But she is a position that should be able to be hired or fired by the board of supervisors, not the county administrator. That's the point I'm getting at.
I agree.
The first sentence of this suggests that the authority lies with the county administrator.
Right.
And we can tweak that so it's clear that the authority lies.
Well, that's why I'm agree with him on. I've said that from the beginning. I haven't changed my mind on this. I see the need for more direct authority to the board to control the various department heads that are under our control of our office. But I also see the need of having someone do what is the day-to-day operations of those offices and oversight. Like, for example, right? So she said now she's got meetings coming up to start doing the budget planning, right? I don't want to do that. I don't want to sit down with every department. I want a summary. I want an executive summary of what those meetings had and the dollar amounts and the justifications. That's what I want to see. But I don't want to have to go through, department after department after department after department to do budget roll-ups, so that's where you would need someone with the delegated authority to do that. Now, she can't implement the budget. She can't add stuff without us voting on it, but she can roll it up with those various departments and let them know our budget intent, our legislative intent, and so that they can craft their budgets in alignment with that. That's what I see her job as doing. Or I don't see that as my job.
I understand.
That's all I'm getting at. So you got to have somebody's got to run the oil the gears. The guy, there's the guy in the room that runs around with the oil can every 4 hours and make sure all the gears are oiled and turning. That's kind of what her job is.
Okay, so
That's all I'm trying to get at.
how would you like to start defining day-to-day / routine? Because you need to be thinking about.
Oh yeah. You posed a good question. So
Okay, so here it is.
we would have to find maybe some other examples of the way it's written for other counties. And like I said, I
Well,
went.
ours is going to be the best. We don't need to look at anybody else's.
I'm just getting ideas, right? So like
Okay.
like the chief
You
of
need
staff
to
thing,
reject.
the chief of staff thing I got because I spent most of my early years in Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Tennessee in politics there, and in those counties, they have chiefs of staff in those states.
Okay, I'm just going to
That's
edit paragraph 8. County administrators shall be responsible for the appointment, yada, yada, yada. Any additional departments or personnel that may be designated by the board. That's the sentence I was looking for.
Oh, that's
the other
like
day.
so. I'll give you an example. Like one of the finance ladies,
Mhm.
right? So she would be able to hire fine. Or if Joe needs an IT guy, he can go hire an IT guy, right? Or if
Joe's a
Laura
department
needs,
head.
if Laura, what's that?
Joe's a department head. I mean, how many, are you a department head over 2 departments or what?
No, IT, well, right now I'm the deputy county administrator, so I have a different role versus
Okay.
IT, and Alan's been running that as the department head. But if I was as the IT department head, yes,
Okay, so you'd hire and fire. Okay, just out of curiosity, who told you you were the acting deputy county administrator? Is that in writing anywhere?
yes, it's in,
Personnel action form that I did at the end
Okay.
of December.
Because I hadn't seen it, and I asked Ms. Graham for it somewhere, and she just gave me, I think, whatever you had
The
before.
description,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, okay. So let's see. I will wrap this up as far as the job description of the county administrator, and not too many more. But let's see. 14 is another example of county administrator shall, as appropriate, recommend changes in organization within the county departments where such changes will enhance the efficiency or effectiveness of county government, in their own opinion.
Right.
Okay. And so there's just many examples of that are in there where I think the county administrator's got too much power.
I am agreeing with you that this needs to be tightened up.
Yes.
That's
It's like
that's
number-
for sure.
It's like number 23 that says that the county administrator can hire a lobbyist. That definitely needs to be taken out. So
Right.
it needs to definitely be amended in many places.
And I agree with the board that there needs to be improvements on this. It is over 20 years old, and it was created by completely different people in a completely different time with
Right.
completely different priorities. So I've been playing with it and making some changes. There's the one about the lobbyist I didn't even know about. I've never had to do that, and I don't think anyone previously has done it. Number 25 about emergency management assistance funds. I checked with the emergency management director. That's not even something we do anymore. So there's lots of things in here that we could tighten up and shorten for sure. And I have a draft that I can share with you.
Again, my intent is, I'm trying to figure out I don't know how to do it. I really don't. I'm thinking, I have a vision, but I don't have the route totally mapped out how to get there, right? So I believe as a hybrid legislative executive body, the Board of Supervisors should appear with the same authority as a governor and a legislature would have, right? So again, the governor has every department in the state reports to the governor. However, the day-to-day stuff is run through the chief of staff. I mean, when I was up there, Jan Brewer was the governor, Eileen Klein was the chief of staff. Everybody knows you go to Eileen. You just don't go traipsing into the governor's office, right? All the department heads from the various departments fed everything through Eileen, and then Eileen would determine whether or not that was warranted to go to the governor with this issue or warranted to go or not go to the governor with that issue. I mean, that's why I spent a lot of time with her when we were fighting over the budget. She was the initial, her and the Tom Arnold, the budget director, were the guys that we met with. And then after everybody got somewhere, then we went and talked to the governor, right? So it would be, I want that same thing where all the department heads, they want to have that budgetary discussion. After that's all kind of hammered out and they talk about their budgets, then once they get where they think they're at, then they bring it up. But I don't want to be down into the weeds of, and I wasn't in the legislature. I mean, I did not go down into internal department budget meetings and sit in internal budget department meetings about the budget, right? So,
And Paul, did you say there's some liability concerns as well of certain decisions the board making versus an individual making?
Sure. It pertains particularly to employment decisions. If you're making it as a body, think of it as systems. So now you've got, instead of one county administrator working with HR to maybe fire somebody, if that's a decision made by the entire board, we have 3 people, it's going to be noticed and agendized. The minutes of the meeting, even if it's an executive session, will be made. I see there's an increased risk of somebody inadvertently saying something that
like, you're fired, I'll deal with you
Yeah.
later on a board meeting.
yeah,
Then they could say that was a single action and
right. We don't want like that sort of stuff to creep up. No, it's more cumbersome. but it also exposes the county to 3 times as much risk of somebody saying the wrong thing
Right.
in a termination session. And if we're talking about department heads particularly, it's a high dollar position. We did get sued by Lisa Mara, probably could have been handled in a way that would protect us better. So there is that, and it's when it comes to employment actions, they could attempt to bring a claim against the individual county administrators if somebody went really crazy and said something totally like discriminatory against a protected class. Those claims are out there. And if somebody thinks that they can create a retirement fund, on their way out, they will do it. So that's one.
Arizona's an at-will state,
Yes.
right? So, in political appointments, for lack of a better term, is what we would be discussing. So if we want to appoint somebody as the head of the health department, the head of the public works, the head of IT, the head of whatever, that is an appointment that will be able to be served at the leisure of the board. And if the board, like you said, as long as we notice it and have a meeting and we say, okay, we've decided that, for example, Joe's the IT department head. And so, okay, well, we don't like what Joe's doing in the IT department. We tried to get him to do the right thing. He's not listening. He's being insubordinate, or he's passively resisting, as I call it. So we're going to fire Joe. And then we're going to put out a notice to hire a new Joe. Right? That is what I'm talking about.
Right.
Having the authority to do that.
And you should have that authority. But I think
Right.
that,
But right now, that's Sharon's got that authority.
so we want to tweak Section 8 to
Right.
make it clear. I think the process would be have an executive session, develop the good cause reasons why there's going to be termination, and then direct your administrator to make
It
that.
won't satisfy everything I think Mr. Crosby wants to do, but I think it satisfies the majority of the intent that the board controls the various departments of county government. And then the county administrator oversees the execution of the policy that then we dictate to the various departments.
Unless they don't want to.
Well, then
Well, then
we
you
deal
cover
with
that
her in that
Yeah.
capacity as well. The part of the problem that you're unfortunately trying to solve has already been solved. The 2 individuals that created that environment aren't here anymore. Myself and Ms. Gomez are here now, right? So it is a different, and I think you guys would admit that it is a different environment now than it was 6 months ago. And I think the oversight that we're providing here may be a little bit more than what the previous board was providing. And it's up to us I'd say it, to supervise Ms. Gilman. And if we don't think she's doing a good job, then we get together. We, like Paul said, we put it on the agenda and we have a discussion on it. I mean, that's us. What you're talking about is a guy that was in charge, and people tend to fill the gap.
Process, man.
If they're given a gap, if they're given authority, they will continue to expand that authority until that authority is checked. Okay, that's just human nature. I mean, I saw it in the Army. I've seen privates run around thinking they were like freaking sergeants, right? Because they were put in charge of a leave raking detail, and all of a sudden they turn into, an E7 like that, right? Because they will expand. It's just human nature. So if you want to talk about Mr. Karwachka, or what was the guy that you said, Kathleen?
Ortega.
Yeah. They will grow into that and take as much and do as much as they can do until they get checked. And that was the problem. They weren't checked. So to say that this was a problem is correct. It was a problem, but the problem was because the previous board didn't exercise the degree of oversight over those county administrators to keep that power in check.
I don't think that's the only problem. The problem is the process. Just like if you've got a goofy election process, like for city council or something like that, that process is a lot of the problem. So if you've got this policy which amounts to the process which allows what you're talking about, then you gotta fix it, and that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, I agree.
We're talking about fixing it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I would just note that in this bunch of paper you've got this separation of service rule 6, and at the top of the page is Cochise County Merit System rules. So there's a lot that everybody has to know that's going to be in this whole thing, and I'm going to go back to the top document to paragraph 24 because I had something to say about that. If I can find it. Okay. Oh, I know. Laura, there are, it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 documents that aren't noted there that we ought to know what they say on there. And
Resolution is 9147, 9265, 9287.
So those
These
were
were all
previous-
done in the 90s?
Yes, that's when a lot of reforms happened, creating this structure of government with a county administrator or a county manager, primarily because what I've been told, it was government was becoming too complex, and elected officials were
lazy.
not able to handle the amount of work entailed. And so to bring in a professional with the leadership abilities to conduct the activities as the board deemed necessary. That's what they did. It also helps, I think, department directors to know that when they have a question, who they're going to for that answer. From everything from an interpretation of policy, and because the county administrator spends so much time with the board and has those one-on-one discussions with individual board members, there's insights gained, and I can relay to department directors what it is the board, I can interpret board direction because I've put in the time with the board to know what that is. It is independent judgment. That's what you hire professionals.
Did you guys ever do board meetings, executive board meetings with all the department heads on the board?
I mean, successively?
Or no, like for example, like the president would have a cabinet meeting and he's got Secretary of Education, Secretary of Energy, all the secretaries sit around the table. Have you ever done it where the three of us sat here and then we had
No,
No.
everybody sitting around the table?
because they would buck it because they don't recognize 11-251.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. That's what I want to fix.
Okay.
Is that part of it there,
Mhm.
right? So to make sure perfectly clear that everybody sitting at that table serves at the leisure of the board.
Not the elected officials. Is that what you're talking about? Or just
I'm talking
department
about
heads?
the department heads, every department, just like the governor has when she has her executive session. It's not executive session. It's executive. It's like her cabinet meeting. I forgot she had another name with it. She had the director for Department of Energy, Department of Transportation, Department of Public Safety. All the directors that she appointed all sit around that table, and they would meet like once a month. It was like her cabinet meeting where the directors would have certain things they would brief the governor on.
I don't think that our department heads would buck that. I thought you were talking about elected officials.
No, not elected officials. No. I'm talking just her direct reports. And that's kind of where I'm coming from, in a hybrid model that we are an executive / legislative entity, kind of, well, we are under Title 11. What I'm getting at is we should have that authority over those department heads.
We do. I haven't perceived that we don't have that authority or that anybody's bucking that.
We don't appoint them. We don't fire them.
You're talking about department heads directly under the board of
Yeah.
supervisors like here?
Yeah.
Well, we could if they're
Yeah,
screwing up.
but
The finance
did you
guy-
hire any of them people?
The finance guy, he left. Karwachka fired him, Bonneker.
Yeah, well,
And I don't
Yeah.
know why.
Karwachka fired him.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting at. So the way I see it is, so let's bring up Jason, for the public works guy, right? Because I like Jason, right?
I
So
want any department director to feel threatened in this.
no, so say we gave him another $5 million to go pave 15 more miles of roads or whatever, right? Say, okay, yeah. And then we find out that he only paved 9 miles of road. And we're like, what did you do with them? Oh, it cost more than I thought. And so, well, you should have came back to the board. You should have talked to the board. Don't let that happen again. Okay, we won't let that happen again. And the next year we give him another $5 million and he does the same thing. This time he comes before the board. We're like, clearly you're incompetent or you can't do your job. So we're going to fire you. And that's it. I mean, that's the way I see it. Not her, not Sharon, not Karwachka, right? Us. The duty to remove those individuals and hire the replacement should be vested with this board, not with the county administrator.
I agree.
That's my take of it. That's why that bubble chart should have all of them report to the board, and then, no offense to Sharon or whoever, dashed line off to the right or left.
Let me
or
ask you a
whatever side.
question.
Sure.
So right now, we have directors and they report to Sharon. So supposedly a director has talked to Sharon and he's not getting anywhere with her. He feels that he's very adamant about what's going on in his department, and Sharon says, no, whatever. As it stands now, what do the department heads have to go to us instead of going through Sharon? Do they feel that they can come to the Board of Supervisors with issues that maybe they've talked to Sharon about, or the county administrator, and the county administrator's not being, I don't know what to say, not giving them full diligence and listening to what their complaints are? What happens right now?
So that's in paragraph 8 and paragraph 15 of what we have right now. In paragraph 8 at the bottom, that's what refers to their ability to contact the clerk of the board if they feel like a issue wasn't being presented from the county administrator to the board in the way that they would like. And then
So
paragraph
that would
15
be a
is
thing. I
similar.
would think they should just come to the board and not have to go through yet another person, the clerk of the board, to
Well,
get
I
to the
think
board.
I interpret that the clerk of the board is going to set up a meeting for this person
Okay.
to meet with the board. I mean, there's no way for the board to meet with anyone as a collective body without it being a publicly.
See, that raises another issue. Suppose you got a whistleblower, right? Say there's somebody in the apartment seeing somebody paving roads
In their driveway,
and somebody's driveway, right? And they want to report,
fraud,
somebody
waste, and
for
abuse.
fraud, waste, and abuse, right? So they would have to schedule a meeting, which means it would have to be noticed in order for them to talk to the three of us.
I don't think they would schedule a meeting.
No?
And
No.
our
You can talk to the
fraud-
three of
our
us?
fraud-
Or you can talk to any one of us.
Talk to anyone.
Any one of you.
Our fraud policy does not follow the chain of command. Anybody can do anything,
So,
and
so
not
a
adhere to the
director,
chain of command if
Oh,
they
okay.
see a
All
crime
right.
or something followed.
so a director could come to us
Pardon.
directly if they
could.
wanted to.
Yeah,
And
I,
do they
Anybody
feel
can.
free to?
Oh, okay.
I can remember Karwatchka didn't want me talking to David Stevens because they thought I was violating the open meeting law or something like that. I had to, hey man, you're crazy. So people do all kinds of, say all kinds of crazy stuff.
With open meeting law violation. No.
Anyway, for like Paul was saying, there's a whole bunch of goofy, ambiguous stuff in here that doesn't make sense. It's got to.
So can
Good.
we just go through
Don't think
each
it's
one
a-
of us, look at it and
No,
amend it and come
yeah,
back?
I have a draft already started with my red lines in it. I can send it to each of you
You got
individually.
suggestions?
Get you started.
Oh yeah. I mean, you can see I got this all marked up.
Okay. Dude, I'm still writing rules. You just got me writing rules, and now I
Yeah,
got
I
to
know.
go do this. I had my Senate rule book out the other night, going through. Oh, we're going to use this one. We're going to use this one.
Yeah,
I'm getting ready to put those together.
I do have a question about the county administrator is a contract position to the board. It serves at the pleasure of the board. If the directors are going to be under the same umbrella, would each director need to have a contract?
I don't think that's what we're saying.
Okay.
Yeah. We're just delineating that the board has an oversight responsibility over those directors, and they'll be more involved in the process, and that's all.
I mean, I'm just trying to. So, trying to understand how it works. I'm trying to remember. I can't remember how it works at the state level. I mean, that's a macro version of it, but I mean, I don't think those guys are hired under a contract. I think they serve at the pleasure of the governor, and they're at will. And if the governor fires them, which it would take our three heads collectively to do that, but I don't think there's a contract there.
Do you remember when Katie Hobbs got sued in the Senate?
Oh, by that one gal, yeah.
So I think that's a good example to keep in mind that she had no individual liability because she was directed by the legislature to take this action, an executive action. But the legislature did pay money in the end. It paid, as a body, almost $3 million, I think, to this person. Yeah, those claims are out there. And using a county administrator who, receives direction from the board that protects you from individual liability, protects her from individual liability. If there was something to go worst case scenario.
How does it protect her from individual liability?
Because she's acting in the direction of
Then how does it protect us from individual liability?
because you're acting as a body and not as a rogue individual. Just
Oh, you're talking about as an individual, not in our capacity as a
Right.
board.
the
Okay.
county could ultimately end up
All right.
liable if it turned out worst case scenario, which I don't see happening.
But I think if we acted as a board and voted on it, that provides that protection.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, do we still need executive session or no? We got a lot covered. I don't know.
Do we have a motion coming out or some direction to
And we could just,
Are
What
we
I-
in
what I-
executive session right now?
No.
no, we're not.
No,
We're
okay.
not.
Okay, I
Yeah,
thought,
we're-
I didn't think so.
No, so what I'm getting at is, I don't think we need it. That's what I'm getting at, because I think we start the ball rolling here. And then we do need to set up a meeting to discuss, or is that this meeting, Ms. Gilman and Mr. Casey, and moving them into a permanent
I would like to see the job description before
before that
any
meeting?
movement.
Okay, okay.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that's fair enough. But
Anything
eventually
else?
we'll have to have that meeting to either, I mean, the choice would be, we can put out a job notice for county administrator or chief of staff, and then, or we could just appoint her under our authority to appoint. Right.
Those are your options.
That's what we're looking at. Or we have a third option. Third option is just eliminate the position altogether.
Well, I'm
That's
not in
what
favor of that.
I'm not a
Yes,
big
that
fan of it either, but I'm just saying it is an option. It is an
Well, yeah, it
option.
is, but so is having, 80, 100-hour work week too,
Which I already have right now.
which I already have too. So I do want some kind of a life, but
All right.
So revisit it in a month.
yeah.
let's-
And meanwhile,
let's, can you help with that?
Yeah, so what I would recommend is that Sharon has started a red line. I can work with her just to look at the language, see if it reflects what we talked about here. And then we can present it.
The language in particular, right? Like Tom brings up the word routine, right?
And I would argue that nothing I do is routine. Almost every day is a new day.
To get a little bit more specific and maybe more clear legal
There's going to be
definition.
stuff you can't do. Like you can't say the school district is going to have an override election, but with using county resources and not come to the Board of Supervisors.
Right, and that's a separate resolution regarding that the board did delegate to the county
Do you
administrator some
have that
separate duty.
handy somewhere?
I don't.
Okay.
But I know
provide
the
it,
resolution
please.
you're talking about, but that's a separate resolution. So it is, when you change certain things, other things, there's trickle-down effects that we will have to address as well to address other resolutions that are
So
impacted.
it is hard to get down into the details and define what is day to day because it
Well, so there's two ways to do it, right? So like laws are prohibitive, right? Or instructive. That's the way we write laws, right? So if it isn't specified how to do it exactly this way, or it tells you you can't do it, then generally you can do it any way you want. That's the way the statutes in Arizona are written. So they're written as a prohibitive measure. Do you
Limit the
want,
government.
what's that?
Limit the government.
Right. So to write what we're talking about now, you can write it two ways. You could write it as instructive, like they do election law, for example, right? Or you could write it telling her you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do
Yeah, I
that.
think, what we should do is have a list of some things that are prohibited and have that as an examples.
Or like an appendix of
That's now we're writing code.
oh yeah,
Code, federal regulations.
Yeah.
And to a degree, a certain level of micromanagement starts to tie my hands too much and I
Right.
can't function.
You're right.
No.
The language is flexible.
noted. Yeah,
And that's what I want to avoid, exactly that.
yeah.
Then-
But I mean, some of the stuff, I think we could leave it broad enough to cover the daily functionality and operations stuff. Then the key stuff like Tom brought up, like you can't go off on your own and make promises with the Sierra Vista School District to do stuff or cut dope deals with the Bisbee mayor to build a jail over here and stuff like that.
Okay.
Like,
That's
never
what-
crossed my mind, but I
No, I know
understand.
somebody else did though. That's what I'm saying. That's the point. And I'm just saying that's some of the stuff like that, right, would be prohibited. The administrator shall not have the authority to,
Enter into IGA.
yeah, whatever, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3.
So would the board then be doing all the performance reviews and things like that for this director?
No.
as
I
well?
think, see, we want our cake and eat it too.
And that's where I say, I think the county administrator can do that because I have that direct interaction with them daily and I know what their improvements.
Well, you would still have that.
But I would talk to the board and say, do you have any concerns you want me to address, specifically about a specific?
I just look at it again as the elected offices that I've had or I've associated with have authorities of that office,
Mhm.
right? And then Title 11, we're given certain authorities, right? So the governor is given authorities, the president's given authorities, the sheriff is given authorities, right? So the county recorder is given authority, right? I see them having a lot of flexibility with determining who they hire and fire. I see a lot of policy that they also can implement to a degree as long as it's in line with the
Right.
with the statutes, and I don't see us having that. That's just my.
When it comes to recruitments, I mean, sometimes you can have for certain director positions, we could have a good batch of recruitments. I would recommend, letting the county administrator whittle those down to finalists who then come in and meet with the board, I think there's ways that we can still work to not have the board drowning in the weeds, but yet giving the board ultimate decision authority.
What I
And I
would
think-
find-
I'm sorry.
I
I
would-
just think also that the issue too is that when I was running, nobody knew what the Board of Supervisors does, right? They had no clue, but they knew what the county administrator did. They knew who that person was. And I think that is really, it's like, personalities, human nature. You get somebody into that role who wants power, who wants to take control, and you have a weak board, you're going to have it no matter what. But I think what we do is have a chance to look at the job description that's been 20 years old and make sure that we always will have a strong board because that's who the people elect. They don't elect the directors, they don't elect the county administrator, but they do elect the board.
Yeah, that's my point too. So I look at it exactly the way she just said.
We've gone almost 2 months without a county administrator. I don't think that there's been any catastrophic effects.
You're welcome.
No, we have had
we
one.
have not gone without a
Without.
county administrator. We've got an interim or
That's
acting.
right,
What
and
is it?
that still is
Interim
in
is the type.
existence.
So she's stepped into the shoes of the other guy that left and has been basically executing that job. And then Joe stepped
Into my shoes.
into her shoes and has been doing her job. So we've had that enjoyment of that position, whether or not the title is there or not. But I mean, we've had the resulted work product
Mhm.
of that
And
position.
we've worked them hard. We've worked them extremely hard, I must say, too.
And Laura.
And Laura, too, yes. So.
The keyboard warriors.
Yeah, over there.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the point I was just trying to get at. She does a lot of things that I do not want to do, just to be honest. But I've always gone with this concept of delegation. I mean, that is a powerful form to get a lot of stuff done. I mean, just like my day job, right? I've got guys that work for me that I delegate them stuff to do, right? I'm responsible for it, but I tell them, here, I don't have time for this. You go do this, you go do this, you go do this. I mean, we delegate stuff. When I was in the Army, delegation is a key leadership technique, right? Where you delegate duties and responsibilities to certain people so you get more done. Because I can't do it all. Kathleen, you can't do it all. The three of us couldn't do it all if we wanted to. So we have to delegate. We just have to.
By doing easement stuff. I wouldn't even know where to start. Thank God Joe's taken, 3 cases for me. Otherwise, I'd still be doing the first easement case.
I mean, that's just the point I'm trying to make, right? So it's how we delegate is up to us, though. That's the paper that we're asking these guys to help us write. It's how do we delegate our authority? What power do we delegate to Sharon? What power to Joe? What power do the individual department heads? That's what we need
All the
to.
power that the county administrator would have is what you delegate.
Right, right.
I
But
completely agree.
well, to Mr. Crosby's point, and to my point too, is there needs to be a stronger message of authority of that delegation, though. That's all I'm getting at. So that they know there's a check somewhere in there too. That it's, you just don't get the green light. There are checks on there. You don't, not that you have. I'm just saying.
It's not in my
But some people will take advantage of giving give you more rope and more rope and more rope. That's the point that I think that Mr. Crosby's making, is because he unfortunately was on that side of the equation with the last board. But
I don't think that I have given anybody in here the impression that I want to micromanage, have I?
You specifically, I would say I have that impression.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine.
But not only in this meeting. I would say, and outside of the meeting, no, you don't give me that impression. But the things you said here gave me that impression.
Okay.
But I'm going to work through it with you on the resolution, and then I'll have a better understanding.
Well, alrighty then.
all right, so I don't see any reason to go into that. We got this. Is this a 2? This next one, Laura, for Mr.
Yeah.
Like in 4 minutes. So let's adjourn. That's this meeting that we're in right now, Mr. Crosby. So we'll adjourn this meeting. You've got your direction.
Yeah.
To start crafting that with Mr. Correa to tighten it up legally.
Yep.
Right, and then
Will do.
Mr. Crosby will provide his inputs, and I will too. Add that to the list of the stuff to do, but we'll do that. So any discussion before I adjourn? None? All right, we're going to be back here at 2:00 to have an executive session with our outside legal counsel at 2.